Hey folks, there's only 10 minutes left of this tape, so I'm going to finish off with a little bit about the ego. Now, the funny thing about the ego is we sit there and we see that somebody has a big ego when they basically have a temper tantrum. You see somebody walking down the street going, and we say, oh, that person has a big ego. Well, the reality of it is, folks, they don't. They have a very, 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 very tiny, minuscule little ego. Because if we look at what an ego is supposed to be a reflection of your self-worth as a human being. It's supposed to be that thing which connects your lower self with your higher self, folks. It's not, the ego is not some alien thing that is just there as a virus. No, not at all. Now, the most egotistical people that I have ever known are some of the greatest people I have ever known. Look at Arnold Schwarzenegger, Anthony Robbins, Napoleon Hill, George Washington, countless others. They have incredible egos, and that's because they have a sense of themselves. They have a sense of, I am an individual. I am strong, I am capable, I am intelligent, I am courageous, I can do this, I can do that. Here's all these things I can do, here's all these abilities I have. They're in that frame of mind each and every day. They know who they are. If you don't know who you are, it's impossible to have a big ego. You've got a tiny little ego if you are waiting for other people to tell you who to be and how much you're worth. Do you get that? Now, the thing of it is, though, is we need to change the phrase big ego, make it equate a healthy ego. Because a big ego is a healthy ego. The healthy ego says, I am capable, I am strong, I am powerful, I am this, I am that, etc. The healthy ego does not need to stomp on people to make itself feel good. The healthy ego could be removed, far removed from society and still feel perfectly capable, perfectly secure, perfectly serene and calm in of itself, self-contained and, just fully aware that, hey, I'm alright, I'm okay, this is what I can do, this is what's possible, etc. Whereas the tiny ego of a lot of people, some of which I happen to work with, their little egos, you so much as, you don't even have to try to insult them. They're just insulted by everyday things. They're easily insulted. They're easily hurt. They're the ones who drive around in big fancy cars. They're the ones who belittle other people to make themselves feel good. If you want to see somebody with a little tiny, pea-sized, pathetic, pusillant, pus-filled ego, there's a tuber calling himself Meridian Frost. He's a great example of a lot of the tiny egos on YouTube. A weak, sickly, pathetic, little tiny ego. We'll say, okay, Nick, what if I've got a tiny little ego and I want to make my ego feel better? I want a big ego, I want a healthy ego, instead of a small, sickly little ego. Well, one of the things you can do is educate yourself. Yeah, you see these things back here? They're called books. You're supposed to read them. Yeah, you turn the pages and you learn and you think about what you've read. You can also go to the internet and do some reading. You can also go anywhere. Join a university. Belong to a discussion group, a philosophy group, some kind of group out there that talks about things. YouTube is a great example, but there's too many people stroking their tiny little egos. We want to make the little ego feel good. Well, you know what? a shot in the arm of penicillin doesn't feel too good, but it'll save your life. Just like taking that little tiny ego and poking it just right is going to make it go, but in the long run, it's going to show the person that their ego is sickly and needs to grow, and it needs to become healthy. Experiences also help with ego development. I know a lot of people who they've got little tiny egos, and all they do every day is the same old thing, routine after routine after routine. And it's pathetic, because that's their little tiny world. That's all they know. The tiny ego will say, this is my world, and I am the master of it. A healthy ego will say, this is the universe. Oh, that's new? I didn't know that. I'm going to integrate it. Oh, that over there, that's new. I'm going to integrate that. Oh, hey, what's that over there? Well, maybe not. I'm not going to integrate that, but that's fine. I'm not going to worry about it. Oh, here's this, here's that, here's that. The healthy ego is constantly pulling in as well as giving. If you look at somebody like Arnold Schwarzenegger or Anthony Robbins, they have very different styles of leadership. They have very different styles of ego expression. Anthony Robbins does these seminars, writes books, etc., gets people to believe in themselves. And, he motivates people. Whereas Arnold Schwarzenegger, he just made hundreds of movies. He's done so much. And, now he's like the governor of California, and he's trying to make it a better place for people. And, on a side note, if you want to read a book about Schwarzenegger, that makes you understand his humanity, really. Fantastic. The Life of Arnold Schwarzenegger by Lawrence Leamer, spelled Leamer. A lot of it is you got to realize that, yeah, you can have a healthy ego. You're still going to be a human being. That's not the point. The point is to use what you do have. Use a healthy ego will sit there and say, here's the tools I have. How can I use these tools to become who I want to be? Do I want to become a millionaire? Do I want to be an actor? Do I want to be a politician? Do I want to be a motivational speaker? Do I want to be an artist? Do I want to be a doctor, a lawyer, a mechanic, whatever? Take the tools you have. The ego, the healthy ego, the big, strong, healthy, strong, powerful ego that is willing to be the Superman. Not the little teeny tiny ego, because it's not capable of anything other than having a temper tantrum. But the big, giant, good, healthy, fantastic ego, that looks at the tools it has and says, how do I create something from this? How? And if these tools aren't enough, how can I get other tools? And the ego, the healthy ego, the big ego, the healthy ego is willing to do the work. Little tiny ego, little tiny ego goes, yeah, I want something for nothing, yeah. But see, that's not how reality works. Ayn Rand talks about reality. She talks about how man, to survive, must take his own tools. Take what you got, use them, and develop yourself. Build yourself. That's the job of the healthy ego. That's the job of the big ego. So I don't want to hear any more about this, oh, people need to get rid of their ego. I'm sorry, I don't want to give up an ego. I would literally be floating out I would rather be floating out there in space alone and have my individuality than just, throw myself into this, massive energy and not, know if my thoughts are my thoughts or if there's somebody else's thoughts or, creepy, to say the least. So, you really need to develop a strong ego. You need to develop a healthy ego. Do something you've never done before. Go on a road trip, cross country. A lot of people, they'd only have to go to the other side of town to have a new experience. I mean, it's like I'll walk around the valley. I'll go to, Tempe or, Scottsdale or wherever. And I'm just like, wow, this is incredible. I'm learning something new every time I go somewhere. And it's incredible. I hate routine because if I'm doing a routine, I don't learn. And it's the big ego, the healthy ego, that is courageous enough to break out of the routine. The little ego, the tiny ego, it's scared to death to break out of this little box. It likes that little box. It's safe in that little box. The big ego, the healthy ego, doesn't need the box. Does not need it whatsoever. The big ego, the healthy ego, says, fuck the box. Fuck the box, I'm not doing it. The little tiny ego, second that little box starts to grow and break or something, they're like, It's really rather sad for the tiny ego. So yes, you should have a big ego, you should have a healthy ego. And yes, I'm developing my own big, healthy, wonderful, lovable ego. Have a fantastic day.